Hello YouTubers, been a long time since I've made another video. Christmas and that kind of set things back, haven't did much out in the shop. So I figured I'd do a video on that of me firing up the 454. Um, got it all set and it's been in here for quite a while. Just never got around to get this video nat up. I got tomorrow, I got a 97 Ford Explorer that I'm going to be bringing in and that for the 8.8. I'm going to be putting that rear end into this as soon as I can get it shortened up and get the other axle for the other side. But that is the plans in that. It's as you know in that in the other videos and that I've been working at this and it's been slow and I've been trying to do a video in that every time I do something with it. Before I fire it up now, I'm going to just do a quick walk around of everything that is possibly I updated or I just didn't reveal in the other videos, and so on. So anyway, to start off with, I still got the steering shaft here that I got to do. I'm still having some issues to try to make it in line with the power steering box down here, or gearbox. So it's kind of off. I've been trying everything and trying to move the steering gear box over. So what it looks like is I'm going to have to buy, I got that universal joint and I got another one, but they just still don't line up. So I'm going to buy another universal joint for down here. And there's I can't remember the name of it, but there's a little slip thing that you can get where it will run it down. You run a bracket up, where it's stationary, and then you can kind of move your universal joint. Because I've tried to even move the steering gear or the steering column over to the left-hand side, and it just nothing in that I've tried has worked that goes in line with this. It hits the headers, and I don't want to go to the extent of putting dents in the sides of the headers just to get them to work. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm trying to find ways to be able to get it down to the steering gear box, even though that I more than likely will go to a manual steering gear box. I've looked in that, and I probably will be going with a manual brake booster up here instead of power steering, or power brakes I mean, because you really don't need it. This truck is fairly light as it is, don't need much braking to stop it, but I will do some upgrades in that with the brakes and that, so on and so forth. Anyway, so what I'll do is reveal in this video before I fire it up. One, as I stated in the other videos, and that I've changed the upper control arms and that A-arms. You can get these through Speedway. I believe that these are two left-hand sides. You flip one over. That is the only way in that you can get them to get room for the headers. Maybe not so much on the driver's side, but over here on this passenger side, it leaves really, really tight down in here. So now there's enough room for my finger to get down through. So that helps as far as that part goes. Plus they look good having them on there. You don't have the bulky upper control arms. I did build my own motor mounts, except for this one here. You can buy those through Moroso or so on and so forth. But these interior net I built myself and welded them into the frame. Now, I've had questions in that to why I didn't go with a mid plate in here. I could have, but I'm still trying to stick with a regular mechanical fuel pump, because this engine don't produce a godly amount of horsepower, so I really don't need the fuel injection unit or fuel injection. So I'm not really concerned with that. Maybe down the road, maybe I'll put a mid plate, but that's a long ways down the road. And on a budget, it's easier for me to cut the steel out and make these for each side. And that's what I have done, is made them for both sides. The engine and everything, transmission, everything is all buckled in there. I did the cross member and that. You're looking at some of the other videos. I built a square cross member in the back for the transmission to bolt onto. It mounts in just perfect. I got a bolt on each side. It allows me to pull the whole thing out, pull it out. So everything is still able to, if the engine has to be pulled in the tranny or the tranny by itself, it will still be able to be done without having to tear a godly amount of stuff apart. It's still got stock brakes and everything on it. The rear end is still stock. None of it has been pulled. When I got this, it originally had a 4-cylinder in it. And some kids in that, I think Annette, I got it from as a kid and it had it lowered. So there's U-bolts and that underneath this thing and that are just wiggly wobbly. So the Ford Explorer, I may be using nose springs under it. I'm not sure. We'll see in that as we get to that, and that whether or not that those Ford Explorer springs will interchange underneath this S10 or not, or I have to use the ones here. Really, it's when you're building these trucks, it's kind of really your criteria what you want to do. You make it the way you want to make it, and that satisfies you. And then if you want to upgrade or change things down the road, you can. Inside the truck, everything inside the truck still looks good. It's in great shape. I mean, it may not look like it right now, but most of it is, I had to pull the whole bottom part down here because it was originally a stick. So, you know, I got to put the automatic shifter on the floor, plus battling with the steering and that. So that's next on the list. And that I got to get this steering and that done because it's the biggest pain in the rear trying to get done. Once it's done, pretty much everything else is not so much of a pain in the rear to work with. But this, like I said, in that this steering column and that here, you know, you see it here. It comes right up in that end. It's a long ways from hitting it. So I may have to, I think it's a hem joint, but I'm not sure. But you put in here, it makes it stay here, and then you put a universal joint on this side, and you can actually, where it allows you to go over and into this. And that's my whole point in that, because I don't want to dent these up. I try to restrict these at all. That's just my criteria, but you see some in that do. The distributor, it's just a straight HEI distributor. I do have a special one in that's going in it. Originally, when I was going to do this a long time ago, was going to be a smaller distributor because I needed more room in the back. I've seen videos where people now say, "Oh, I can't get the HEI." This HEI fits in there just perfectly. The engine was in here, and then I put the HEI in, so there's more than enough room in that in there. If you go with a high-rise intake, maybe you would get some issues where you can't get that HEI in there, but you shouldn't have any problems. But like I said, my aftermarket one that I'm putting in here is going to be smaller around. It will have the coil and up on the firewall. It's all around a lot more better than this here. You get a little bit more room in the back, and makes things easier, makes things look a lot better. So anyway, kind of give a rundown on the 454 before I fire it up. Everything is basically bone stock. She is a 454. She was bored 20 thousandths over. The mains and rods are, I believe in that, are 10 or 20 over. I have a follow-up. There's another video in that about issues with main bearings and that on Cleveland 77s. If you have any issues in that with the rod and main bearings, I think it's really the rod bearings. Go check that out. But other than that, the heads, everything is all bone stock. Besides the cam, I put basically the biggest cam that I can get without modifying or needing to modify the bottom end or the valve train. It's where it's at the safe zone, so I don't have to worry about, hurting anything or breaking anything. So the good thing in that is that this engine here will allow me to give me a start of where I want to be. I have talked to a few people in that on S10s and that, and they say you're just going to curl your toes and it's going to burn out. It's just going to be a matter of trying to get it hooked into the road. I ain't worried too much about that. I'm doing this for my own criteria. I wanted a play toy, something that gets out and move, when I want it to, and do, burnouts, just an enjoyment, just a fun truck and that to run. And there's a lot of these that are that way too, where you can get the best of both worlds. And then if down the road and that, I could still drag strip it the way it is. But if I decide to and that, I want to go through and have a little bit more horsepower, we can always go and build this in here up and actually buy, make this into a racing more engine. Now, being that this engine and that came out of a 77 Chevy crew cab and the transmission. So it's a 454 with a 400 turbo. I'm figuring that as bad as it sounds, in that this thing may have 175, maybe 200 horses at the most for it. That's kind of iffy in that situation. I get you in that. I know that I can get a lot more out of a small block, but I'm looking at the wow factor. When you open up the hood, you see the big block in there. People, it's a big block. So I'm just kind of looking at it. I think in that every person in that wants to build one of these trucks, they build it for what they want it built for. They do it for what they want it done. So I think it's everybody's criteria. Hey, this is the way I want to build it. I'm building it the way I want to build it, and that's the way I think it should be done. Don't build it in that because what somebody else told you way you should build it. Build it the way you want to build it, but make sure it's built safe. Get you probably down the road. It may need a roll cage in it. I'll worry about that when I get to it. Now, the next step, the exhaust. Like I said now from the other videos, way down in there, the lower A-arm on the bottom, it's really tight for where these headers come out through. So even with that where it comes out, it's really tight, but you can get your exhaust and still get full exhaust without restricting. So what I got in here and that, this is just a kind of a mock-up. I put a corner piece and run the pipes out, and then they're coming out through this side. There's no mufflers or anything. And I did that for this side over here. This one here actually needs to be cut and sunk in a little bit more and then reshaped the top and that. But my intentions now I wanted pipes that will really come out and then have electronic lever net where I can convert, where it allow me to run straight pipe or go through the mufflers out through the back. That is down the road, of course. So, by further ado, let's go ahead and I'll fire this up, give you an idea in that of, it sounds really good. It's, there's been a lot of work to get it this far, and so we will see. I'm trying to get this line and that in. There we go. And we'll give her a couple shots up here. And there she is, folks. Like I said in that, she's just straight bone stock besides the cam. I don't want to fumigate myself too much. It started kind of running a little crappy at the first and that, and so there were some few areas in that there where I was messing with the timing and that, trying to get the distributor in that advanced, because she was a little retarded a little bit. Once you get advanced in that, then she started picking back up and that, where she started running good. My intentions in that are, is I got an Elder Block on here. I'm not an Elder Block fan. They're great carbs and that, but I am a double Holley pump type of person. So I will put a Holley double pump on here. That's my next step. They're just so much more better for performance. Elder Block and that are good in that for all around rig or a work hog. But my dad's got one on a 68 GMC with a mildly built 355, and he's always had problems in that with that carb and that. And with the Holleys and that, I've had nothing but goodness with Holleys, longs that the fuel in that is clean, and you have your fuel filters and that. I always run a fuel filter before and after the gas tank. So here and that, like I said in that, I wanted to get this video out. I've been prolonging it. So hopefully in that, the next one in that, will be able to get this steering column, steering shaft in that taken care of. But anyway, this is my startup in that of my big block S10. I'll get back with you more I get done. If you don't hear from me in that, always drop me a message in that and say, hey, you got another video coming out or so. But subscribe, so that way when the next video come out, I'm going to try to stay on top of these. Christmas and stuff and came along in that, so it kind of put a damper of everything in that, of getting things done. You all know in that how it is in that at Christmas time, and that, you just don't have the funds in that, and you got kids, so money's got to divert somewhere else. So anyway, catch you guys later in that, and keep them S10s on the road, get them built. Thank you. Bye.